Well, joining me now for more is Michael McFaul, former U.S. ambassador to Russia, and Victoria Coates, former deputy national security advisor to President Trump and national security and foreign policy vice president at the Heritage Foundation. Welcome to you both. Michael McFaul, what do you think of these reports? And I'm going to bundle this latest report on Elon Musk with the one from Bob Woodward on President Trump and communications with Putin. Do you think it's likely that he's having those conversations?
Yes, I do. I mean, I know the reporters that worked on this story for the Wall Street Journal. They're very careful. It's obvious that they've talked to senior U.S. government officials about this, reading between the lines. And as your reporter just importantly underscored, any conversation that Vladimir Putin has with anybody around the world is a high target. We are very interested in that. And I think many Americans don't realize that, of course, we're trying to know about those conversations. So I think they happened, and I don't like it. I don't like it. It is normal for former presidents and CEOs to talk to presidents and prime ministers around the world during normal times. But there are two things about this that are disturbing. One, Putin is leading a war in Europe, in Ukraine, against and threatening American allies. It's like talking to Hitler during World War II. And so we should know what the content is. And two, and we don't know the details, but in normal times, former presidents and CEOs, at least when I worked in the government, would come to the U.S. government and talk about what they talked about to make sure that they were not doing anything that was adversely affecting U.S. national security interests. And when we're talking about Starlink and the war in Ukraine, that we have real national security interests here that are in the hands of a private individual. And I would hope that he would be coordinating those kind of conversations, not trying to have them secretly.
Victoria, it seems that there's an argument out there that certain powerful, capable individuals, and there are only a few of them, could be assuming capabilities more like nation states now, able to complete space launches, able to have satellites in outer space, and perhaps conducting their own diplomacy. Do you see it differently?
Well, John, good to be with you. And I agree with Ambassador McFaul. I think, certainly the notion of contacts between any American citizen and Vladimir Putin raise concerns, legitimate concerns amongst the American people. But going back to what Eamon was reporting on, yes, indeed, we do depend on SpaceX for a lot of things, and including our coordination with the International Space Station, with which, of course, Russia is a participant. And I could see a perfectly logical scenario here in which obviously the U.S. government wouldn't want to be coordinating with the Russian government, but that Elon Musk, having responsibilities to both countries because of the ICC or the space station, that he would need to have contacts with Russians. And again, to the point about his security clearance, yes, that should and is, I'm sure, regularly readjudicated. These have to be reported. Both the content and the nature of the contact, whether it is ongoing, whether it is social, whether it is professional. And yes, we could have collected on that, all of which Elon Musk would know. So in terms of the significance of this, I think we do have to wait to get more details. But that I'm sure in the government, that security clearance has gotten a lot of scrutiny since his endorsement of former President Trump. So I'd be surprised if much more shakes out here that hasn't already been revealed.